Live.
How are you all today?
Good to see everyone. Good to be seen by everyone.
Hope
you're having an absolutely fantastic Tuesday.
It's
It's
got to
be better because it's Tuesday because it ain't Monday.
We're
just another day closer to Gary Con. And that should bring a smile to your lips. Now, nothing has changed on the ticket availability front at Gary Con. Everything except Greyhawk Graveyard Gold Rush is still sold out. But if you want to play some AD&D for lunch on Friday, now is your opportunity. Let me double check that. Let's see, tabletop events. Just want to make sure I'm steering you all right. Teams, let's see. Event schedule. My name in this. You know what's weird is when I put my name in as the filter, a bunch of stuff just comes up that is not me. It's kind of strange. I know. I'm just going to scratch my head about that. And all that's full too. So yes, currently Greyhawk Gold Rush Graveyard is the only event I'm doing that still has any availability left, and there are 6 slots. So if you want to play some AD&D for lunch on Friday, that's your chance. Otherwise, you're not going to get into one of my games. But if for whatever reason I do have some folks drop out, Thursday evening at 7 is Operation X80, which is a First Ed Gamma World adventure. Friday afternoon lunch, of course, Greyhawk Gold Rush Graveyard. That is event 392, by the way. So if you're like, I don't see a Greyhawk Graveyard Greyhawk Gold Rush Graveyard listed, Bill. It's event 392. Then there's Saturday at 2. I will be running The Lost Crypt, which is a module that I penned for and with Gary Gygax. Well, it's part of the Teeth of the Market Shower. I've explained that to you guys before. And then Saturday evening, I'm running my own Castle Greyhawk adventure called Expedition to the Sunless Sea, which is the uttermost depths of the Castle Greyhawk dungeons. Very high level adventure. Pre-generated characters will be provided. Don't bring a favorite character to it. Don't bring a character that you couldn't stand to see die. That you've been running for 30 years. First of all, I don't know what you got from what custom games or what have you. Second of all, it's tough. And then finally, Sunday, I'm running Twilight 2000. That is Sunday at noon, Twilight 2000, The Great Escape. So that's what's going on in Gary Con world. Now, I did mention yesterday that I had some potential I had some potential mail call stuff going on this week. And one of the items I'm going to get to in just a few minutes. So I did get a cool thing. But it's something I bought, so I don't think it merits Mail Call Monday awesomeness. Jeremy's saying, I hear an echo 2 blanks. Let me check, Jeremy. Thank you for catching that. Let's see. Blue Snowball. Cam link.
All right, hopefully that got it. There was something showing up as mic/auxiliary. I don't know. You know what? I wonder maybe if... so my new streaming machine is this Dell Optiplex down here. Which is it's a 4th gen i5, so it's got more than enough oomph to do what I need it to. But I wonder, because it does have built-in audio, I wonder if it also has a built-in microphone. In somewhere in its case, that may be possible. Anyway, so yeah, I'll get into the thing that I bought and I received because it's kind of a funny story, but I want to share this with you from last night's game. And it starts off, if you're on YouTube and you don't see the comments that are on Facebook, or if you're just not paying attention to comments, maybe you're driving, maybe you're listening to this as you cruise through the streets, or you're at work and you can't really pay attention to YouTube. Jeremy provides a haiku, which is a difficult enough thing. Packard Bell boots up. Brother and I share keyboard. School night playing Zill. So this ties into what went on last night in the game, and I'm going to build up to where begat Jeremy's haiku. So the party, if you're familiar with White Plume Mountain, they found the room of glass spheres. If you're not familiar with White Plume Mountain, there's a room that has 9 glass spheres in it. And they're suspended from the ceiling by unbreakable wires. So the room is like a couple feet deep in muck. The point is that the party goes in and the door slams and magically locks itself, and they have to break each of the spheres to get the key to escape. Now, in each sphere, there is a false key and some amount of treasure. In a couple of the spheres, there are monsters, and so on and etc. And the thing is, the room's about a foot deep in muck. And if you just casually break a sphere, what's in the sphere will fall into the muck and sink, and you can't find it. So you could potentially lose the key and literally lose the character in the room. The party has enough magical weapons that they were able to hack down the door after a wandering monster encounter with a pack of 3 trolls, which I know if you're familiar with White Plume Mountain, you may say, hey, there's no trolls on the wandering monster chart for White Plume Mountain, to which I say, how dare you speak to me like that? But no, all kidding aside, the party dealt with the trolls, broke down the door, started dealing with the spheres, and there is one magic ring, and I don't have the module in front of me, but basically the ring promises the world, but it has to be worn out of the room. If you just pick it up and carry it out of the room, its powers will be lost. You have to put it on. Well, it does none of the things that it says it'll do. It doesn't let you fly 4 times a day. It doesn't let you resist magic 10 times a day. It doesn't let you... it doesn't have one wish embedded on it, etc., etc., etc. It doesn't do anything. Once you leave the room, its magic switches off. So somebody says, hey, can the bard identify what it is? And bards in first edition AD&D can merely look at an item and tell what its magical nature and history is. So Jeremy, being the bard, I said, all right, roll percentile dice. And he rolls, and he has the legend lore of the item. And of course, he immediately knows that it's false. And I said it was a prank item created by a mad wizard, and I'll let you name him. So Jeremy comes back and says, the Ring of Zill. And I was so flabbergasted that he chose Zill. And I had to ask him, I said, do you know the provenance of the name Zill? And he said, well, yes, I do. It was this old game for the IBM. And I said, yes, it's an old text adventure role-playing game for the IBM PC. It is one of 2 games made by IBM, like written and developed in-house by IBM. And it's actually got hot seat multiplayer. It's a 2-person text adventure game. Players sit down at the keyboard and type in what they're doing, and then the next person gets up, and you start in different parts of the adventure, and you can run into each other in a single room, and you can combine your efforts and so on. Well, Jeremy was surprised that I knew who Zill was, and I was surprised. I guess I should be less surprised that Jeremy knows who or what Zill was. So I gave him a little XP bump for that. Knowing who Zill was is pretty propeller head and pretty geeky. So they. The ring's unofficial title was the Nigerian Prince Ring, because it promised the world but was in fact fake. So they left that ring behind and took all of the actual beneficial items out of the room, potentially beneficial items out of the room anyway. So that was a lot of fun. Jeremy knowing about the game Zill and so on. Interesting piece of trivia. Now, if you're not into retro computing, this may interest you not in the least, but in Texas, I believe it's in Austin, there was, don't go there looking to raid the place like so many other people have, this multi-warehouse building that contained tons of vintage computers going all the way back to the 70s into the mid 90s. It was hardware, it was software, and it was all part of a business owned by an individual who did computer repairs, and everything from like the front of the shop deep into the warehouse spaces behind it. And I mean warehouses in the traditional sense. I don't mean storage spaces. I don't mean storage sheds. I mean 50 foot tall, 100 feet wide, 500 feet long. At least a couple of those, packed floor to ceiling. Even stuff lying outside in the elements, which was heartbreaking. Like there was a pallet of vintage Macintosh machines. I'm not a Mac user. I don't particularly care for it. But I am a retro computing enthusiast, and seeing something like that was just like, because God knows how long it just sat out there in the Texas heat and, rain and snow and everything else. But it was just vintage computers. It was just piles and piles and piles of vintage computers. And after a while of people swooping in to kind of pick at the treasures, like for example, he had a lot of Commodore equipment, C64s, 128s, allegedly a C65, but also a lot of vintage Amiga computers and so on. And before word generally started getting out about this guy's Dragon's Hoard, because that's really what it was, people kind of swooped in and, skimmed the cream off, as it were. But he, vintage computer enthusiast, got organized and said, let us come in, please, and help organize this stuff. And if there's stuff you don't want, we'll take it away, and so on and etc. So just shit tons of new inbox, never used desktop PCs, clone PCs. Like I said, some classic Macs. Hopefully they were able to at least salvage something out of those. Because older computers are pretty robust. I've seen guys revive computers that had literally sat out in the elements, out of doors. Like, I just threw this out into a field that sat there for decades and decades and decades. So maybe somebody was able to salvage those, something out of those Macintosh systems. I don't think you could do that with today's gear. It's all very frail flowers. But he in watching a video of a YouTuber go through these piles of stuff, he found a case lot of the IBM game Zill, and each game was still in shrink wrap. It was still brand new, just like you go in a store and buy it. And man, I can't imagine. It's a bit of a rarity since, it's a video game. Well, it's an adventure game. I don't know how much video is involved, but it's an adventure game made by IBM. Made by IBM for the IBM PC back in the day, and all the boxes were brand new. It was in good condition. It had been eaten up with mold, like a lot of things in there had. That was the one shocking thing about that, was how many people, when they showed like folks looting that warehouse, how many people were not wearing protective gear. And I don't mean because of Kung Flu. This was a couple of years ago. I mean, like, mold is bad. You get mold in you and it can really screw you up bad. And people just, like, I would have shown up wearing a Tyvek suit and a respirator, with D-germ ready to spray on any computer parts that I got out of that place. I'm not a germaphobe. I'm not paranoid like that. But I was stunned. But anyway, so there's especially yellow mold. Exactly. And hello, Rich. Yeah, yellow mold, Save versus yellow mold, and all of that stuff. But anyway, if you go on to YouTube and look up Texas Computer Warehouse, you will get a lot of hits of people pulling stuff out, videos of them pulling stuff out of there. But if you're in the Texas area, if you're in the Austin area, ooh, I'm going to go get me a vintage computer. Don't. The family is now very aware of what they have or what they had, and they're not going to let you just show up and crawl around and haul stuff off and make offers anymore. They're not doing that. But so all that goes back to Jeremy mentioning Zill, and I was just so I got a thrill when Jeremy mentioned Zill in White Plume Hill. It's not a haiku, Jeremy. It's the best I could do off the top of my head. But anyway, speaking of vintage electronics, I had mentioned earlier that I wanted to get my own copy of the Mattel Dungeons and Dragons electronic game, and I found one on eBay for not terribly much. It was missing some plastic parts, but I thought, you know what? I got a 3D printer. Those parts have got to be available. And lo and behold, I found STL files for them. Woohoo. And yes, I am now the proud owner of the Dungeons and Dragons computer labyrinth game. Labyrinth, a word that I constantly struggle to pronounce. So here it is. This is the same one that Tracy and I talked about. Lovely graphics on this box. I mean, this is amazing. This is so much smaller than I remember it being. And there's some images I wanted to share. We're going to do a second deep dive on this again. And I'll share some ads and posters and that sort of thing, images of them that I found out on the interwebs. And this box is in very good condition. Now, the original owner, I kind of wish they hadn't done this, but I understand they wanted to sell it. It is taped in a few places. I may remove the tape and set about to glue repairing the box if I can remove it without causing any further damage to the box. It's not moldy. It's only got just a little slight bit of dishing in the top. And I paid, after shipping, $35 for this. What floors me is that the little Hunt the Wumpus game that's D&D branded, and I've talked about that one that's also from Mattel, those go for like $79, $80, $100. Although a good condition electronic labyrinth game is also pretty costly. But yeah, it was very serendipitous to find it. And I'll tell you something a little funny about it is, so I am expecting a mail call item, an additional one from a viewer of the streams here and a good friend of mine. And when I get it, we're going to do a deep dive on it. So when I saw that this box had come in and it was 1 day express, I was like, oh, wow. Now, this particular item came from literally across town. There is it's its own town, but as sprawling as the Orlando metro has gotten, it's effectively a suburb of Orlando called Apopka. And when I saw it was in Apopka, I honestly, if it wasn't for Kung Flu, I would have just gone over there and I would have said, hey, can I just come by and pick it up and spare you having to take it to the post office and spare me having to spend money on shipping? But I just let him send it to me. And the woman who sent it to me, God bless her, in the description it says, some issues with the power button, but works. Okay, I figure if it's a loose wire, I can get in there with a soldering iron and doctor it up, or I can get some deoxit and spray it down in there and clean the contact. Whatever, it'll be fine. But when she sent it to me, she left the 9-volt battery connected in the game. Thank you, seller. I absolutely appreciate that you included the 9-volt battery. The problem with the switch is that the switch is super sensitive and will just turn on at the slightest bump. Well, things tend to get slightly bumped a lot at the post office. So when my wife says, hey, there's a couple of packages and there's one on the table, and I'm like, oh, this must be the mail call item sent to me by a friend. I didn't think it would get here that quick. So as soon as I pick it up, it starts making electronic noises. And I'm turning it around and it's, bleep, bloop, bleep, 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 bleep. And it's the game going through its power on test cycle. And every time I moved the box, it would jiggle the switch and it would restart the machine and it would go through its power on test cycle again and again and again and again and again. I can't imagine how much fun that was for the post office people. I wonder if they're the ones who put it on one day. Just no. We don't want this around for 3 to 4 days. Just expedite it. Just get it the heck out of here. So yes, I have the Dungeons and Dragons Electronic Labyrinth, and we'll get to trying this out on the stream soon enough. Now, Tracy had one, of course. His was experiencing a different electrical issue, so we'll hopefully we'll be able to get this one to work, and we'll have a final time. But I just found it hilarious that the box was basically sitting there bleeping at me. You bleeping, box? So now, tomorrow, of course, is Wednesday. It'll be Wastrel Wednesday. I'll be streaming live with Kyle Schuant in the evening, as opposed to my midday streams that I've been doing now. And I sure hope you'll all join us for that, because tomorrow, Kyle is setting about to prove a point. And the point that he's setting out to prove is that he can get through a D&D adventure without having an extraordinary character. He took a character, gave him 10s all the way down the line, no 15s, nothing like that, and is playing an elven thief that he's going to run through at least a portion of Keep on the Borderlands. Now, I myself follow the Gygaxian method of character generation, and I use Appendix P, which is creating a party on a spur of the moment, where you have a percentage chance based on level of having a useful magic item. For example, a 6th level fighter, I think, has a 60% chance of having a magic dagger, and a 75% chance of having a magic sword of some kind. So I sat down and I rolled some percentile dice, just right there in the old die rolling tray that I got from Nick Cardarelli over at Raised on D&D. Thank you, Nick. And I diced up to see whether or not Kyle's thief, Mr. Average, would have anything useful, any useful magical items. And lo and behold, he's got a suit of leather armor +1. Nothing else, no magic dagger, no rings, no potions, no scrolls. But, excuse me. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see how that works out. And, yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. We'll live stream a little bit of D&D tomorrow. I may even, I may even break out and set up some Dwarven Forge just for the heck of it. But anyway, that's about all that's going on right now. You know what? Let's take a look. Let's take another look here at the D&D game, just so you feel like you're justified in taking some time to do this. Which says, the first time I've ever heard of Zill. Zill is pretty fascinating. Like I said, it is a hot seat multiplayer text RPG. And you and one other player explore this adventuring realm, and you're moving room to room in separate rooms. You start in separate parts of the adventuring locale, and it may be a while before you both get to the same room. You may be in separate rooms right next to each other and not even realize it. So here we have our plastic labyrinth. I'm going to set that down for a moment. But we have this lovely box. Now, if the game was packaged, if there was a styrofoam insert or anything like that, I don't, this doesn't have it. But I tend to think there wasn't, because the box really isn't much bigger than the actual board itself. And the back kind of shows off a game in progress, as does the front. Which, by the way, there are some promo posters for this that are absolutely gorgeous and absolutely out of my price range. But if I stumbled on one and could afford it, I would totally get it and put it up. This is, as Tracy and I said, this is a very 1970s design for a game that came out in 1980. What it says here: a game of strategy. Play alone or against a rival warrior and the dragon computer. 2 skill levels. A game of skill. Find your way through the labyrinth on a touch-sensitive electronic board. Electronic sounds help you locate labyrinth walls. Walls shift with each new game. So it does have a lot of replayability. It's not like, hey, I memorized the board and everything's good. Game includes 4 die-cast metal playing pieces, 2 warriors approximately 1.5 inches, 3.7 centimeters tall, 1 dragon figure 2.3 inches, 5.8 centimeters tall, and 1 treasure piece 1.2 inches, 3.1 centimeters by 0.68 inches, 1.7 centimeters by 0.7 inches, 1.8 centimeters. I don't know why they found it necessary to give us the exact measurements on those pieces, but I don't know. Maybe whoever did the copy on this was being paid by the word. 3 plastic markers. 2 for secret rooms, 1 for treasure room. 50 plastic wall pieces to mark walls. Storage dungeon for game pieces and instructions. Playing instructions. A game of adventure. Watch out! Electronic sounds tell you the dragon is after you. Find and steal the treasure before the dragon gets you, and you win. So as I said, I am going to have to print up a few replacement pieces for it, but that's okay because there's plenty of files out there that will that are on Thingiverse. I already found them and downloaded them, so I'll be able to print up any missing walls. Let's see. And if you saw the episode of Crazy Gibberish where I opened this with Tracy and this is all ground we've gone over, that's fine. I understand. You may go. Now, interestingly, and as far as I can tell, it really has no bearing on actual gameplay itself. But each one of these tiles here, I'm gonna bring this open so I can see you guys. OBS here. Each one of these tiles, you gonna pull focus for me, camera? Nope. Okay, you can see they've got kind of these spots on them. Those are individual pieces of art, and I can't help but wonder if they're supposed to be, like what potentially you find in each room. A lot of them are repeated. Many of them aren't. Hi, Mike. But yeah, each one of these has graphics. Now, these don't light up, and the graphics don't mean anything as far as I can tell. I'll do a deep dive into the rules one day, but let's go ahead, and I'm gonna put. Now, Tracy and I weren't able to determine what this is right here, and this jack is not mentioned anywhere in the instructions. I don't know what it's for. I don't know if it's power. I don't know if it's sound. I'm certainly not going to drop a drop a power connector in there. There's nothing on the box about it needing a power connector, so I don't know what it is. One thing I can tell you is back in the early 80s, batteries were an investment, man. If you screwed up and left your new toy on and that battery got eaten, at least around my house, it might have been a while before you got new batteries. So let's get that 9 volt. And it's not a great 9 volt, but it is what it is. Here it is. 9 volt battery. Also known as find the guy with a septum piercing and give him a little zap. No mercury added. Well, that's good to know. Thank you. Don't have to make your save versus poison. So I'm just going to clip this on here. So I am very interested to know what the inside of this looks like, but I'm not going to. The constant bleeping is the switch. All right. All right. So I'll hold this up to the mic so you can hear this. And, well, you can hopefully hear this. Hey, Tracy. All right. So we have testing our sound effects here. That was dragon flying. That was dragon attacks. That was door. That was illegal move or warrior moves. That was... What was that? That was warrior 1 winner. And that was warrior 2 or treasure. That was So this is basically like a shift key. This key here, you have to hold it down to hear each different tone. So that's Dragon waking up, I think. That's a door. That is Warrior moves. That is Winter. And that second one was Finding the Treasure. So there's your sound effects. And I think it's in... Yeah. I think it was in either White Dwarf or Dragon Magazine. Somebody made the comment that, this is a cheap plastic castle. Well, it's a board game piece, guy. Relax. And I don't think it looks that cheap. It looks like an electronic board game and has a little bit more style, thank you very much, than Simon, if you remember that game from the 70s or 80s. Or a Speak and Spell. At least it looks somewhat inspiring. So there's our sounds. That's what it sounds like and what it looks like a little bit. Let's take a gander here at our minis. I am going to paint these. Look, I'm just going to say that straight. I'm going to clean these up and paint these minis. And you say, you kill the collectability. First of all, if I want to sell it, I can throw them in some simple green and then they're cleaned off. Second of all, I ain't going to want to sell it. Here are the wall pieces. And these are just simple plastic, like little battlements. And my set is missing some, but again, I have the STL files to print them. Here is the dragon piece. Which, he feels like pot metal. It's going to be interesting to clean these guys up for sale or for painting. And there's one other token in here. There's supposed to be 4 tokens like this that indicate different things. This is the treasure token, the marker where you indicate the treasure is found at if you don't, if you have a character who's carrying the treasure and they croak and for whatever reason you don't want to use that, you can use that. And then we have the instruction book, which somebody took a ballpoint pen to. I guess they're bored or something. Scribbled on it a little bit there. 90-day limited warranty. If you need, let's see. If you need service from Mattel Electronics Repair Center. Ooh, I wonder if I should get a hold of Mattel and tell them that the power switch on my D&D Electronic Labyrinth game isn't working. I don't think they're gonna honor that. So let's see if we can find out the mystic jack on the side and see what that is supposed to do. Doors, advanced level only. In the advanced level of the Dungeons & Dragons game, there are magical secret doors as well as walls. The computer decides when and where to close a door and for how long. Doors are tricky because you never know when they will close. You may go through an open corridor on your way to the treasure room, grab the treasure, go back through the same corridor on your way home, and run smack into a closed door. This can be serious if the dragon is chasing you. Very nice. Let's see. Warrior with treasure lands on square occupied by other warrior. Warrior with treasure has not used his maximum of 4 moves. Whether he wins or loses, the warrior with treasure may continue moving up to his maximum number of moves. If he wins, that maximum stays at 4. If he loses, the maximum returns to whatever it was before he took his treasure, 6 or 8 moves. Survival of the strongest. Warrior. Strength factors in a 2-player game. So if you're playing a 2-player game, warrior strength has nothing to do with his ability to move his maximum number. Yeah, so this has got some real it's got some combat going on in it. Dragon attack, dragon wakes, wall pieces, how to begin the game. Sound preview keys, switch key, AC jack. Okay, so you can use an AC adapter with this. That's what that is. It's an AC jack. But no AC jack is included with the game. So, you know, that's kind of interesting. Oh, and by the way, here's the dungeon, the little tray, and it does have some detail on the edge there. So we're going to have to get Tracy's copy of this game working. I don't know if it's possible to play head-to-head with 2 separate boards. I would think not, since they'll generate different mazes, and the dragon will be in different positions. But anyway. So that's our deeper dive into Mattel Electronics Dungeons & Dragons Computer Labyrinth. I keep wanting to call it Electronic Labyrinth. It is an actual computer, although what kind of computer it is, I don't know. Maybe one day I'll work up the cojones to actually open the bottom of it and see, you know, what it's got. I'm sure it's just a bunch of TTL logic, that there's no actual computer. But with that said, I mean, it is effectively, it's running a program, because you've got, you know, it's keeping, it has memory, it has RAM, obviously. It has a random number generator. It has separate programs that it stores in it. So it's got a ROM. It's got to be told how to execute those things. So honestly, I mean, I've been calling it like just TTL logic. It may actually be like a 4004 chip and a few bytes of memory. I'm kind of keen to know, to find out, but not at the expense of damaging the game. That's not going to happen. And it's also good to know, it could be like 3D chess with both of ours. It could be. I'm also keen to know what values that AC adapter might use. So how cool would that be? Get an AC adapter for USB and plug that in and be able to just run it off of a phone charger. So all this and more will be answered in the future. Tracy and I did a recent walkthrough of the Computer Labyrinth game, and I don't want to belabor the point. So again, tomorrow, Wastrel Wednesday, Kyle will be here. We will be playing some D&D live for you guys, just as a play example for him to show off his character, Mr. Completely Average, 10s in all stats. But he is an elf. He did get a little munchkin-y, 60 feet of infravision, detect doors when passing on a 1 in 6, 3 and 6 when searching, +1 at sword, +1 at bow, and he has +1 leather armor. So it should be interesting. So we'll have to see how that works out. But with that said, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up. I want to thank you all very much for watching the CG Live, not just today, but as always. I was watching Daft Punk's D-Res video, and your live feed came up in my YouTube recommendations. Oh, that's nice. I had somebody, that was a YouTube comment from a buddy of mine. I was watching Daft Punk's Derezzed and your live feed came up in my YouTube recommendations. That is so cool. That is so cool. But yeah. Thank you everyone who watches. Next week after GaryCon, I'm going to officially launch the Patreon. So if you want to throw me a couple of bucks a month, you can. And I'm going to be kicking out some nice 3D printed items for higher tier folks who watch the stream. Now, again and always, there is not going to there's never going to be like a paywall. The paywall is if you support the show enthusiastically enough, you get some cool 3D printed stuff from me. If you just say, yeah, go Bill, if that's your level of support, you still get my endless thanks. So it's not like, ooh, there's a hidden video that only Patreons get to see. No, I'm not going to do that. That's not the point of why I do this. I've told you guys why I do this. So... yeah, tomorrow will be at 6:30 Eastern in the evening, not in the morning. I don't think you'll ever find me live streaming at 6:30 in the morning Eastern. And if you do, something has gone terribly wrong. So I'll see you all then. Thank you all very, very much for tuning in today. Peace.